All of who you are and hope to be is wrapped up in your ability to believe in who and what you are. You are a king that has the DNA of the divine running through your veins. There is nothing you can't do. Like Adam, look out and give name and definition to the world that you will have dominion over. What do you see? Often what we see externally is a mere reflection of what we see and feel internally. What do you see? Are you blinded by the fear of failure, pain, or inadequacy? What do you see? Is your vision blocked by the void inside that leaves you empty and desolate after you've given your best to only find out you're still just second best? You are not alone. Embrace this book as light and love. It is our hope that after reading this literary work that you would be enlightened and know your full worth. Life is filled with swift transitions, and learning how to navigate them is critical. Oftentimes, men go through life wondering, am I good enough? What's wrong with me? Am I worth loving? Because they did not have the information or tools they needed to make it through their journey. The information that is mentioned in this book is not superficial. It will not help you build your financial empire. It will not bring you physical riches or fame. This is the type of information that enriches the soul. The purpose of this book is to create and awaken your internal compass to becoming the best version of yourself. Our desire is for you to be whole, to be the type of man that when you wake up, the world says, crap, he's still alive. To be the type of man that hungers for something more in life than just his next dollar or opportunity. A man of substance, a man of class, a man full of integrity, courage, wisdom, grace, purpose, identity, patience, and love. The type of man that's committed to changing the world to make it a better place. We believe you are that man. I Am Man. We are a resource hub that strengthens men and those who are navigating the various phases of life and manhood. We are building a safe space where every man's story matters. We advocate, educate, coach, and empower men on how to redefine their narratives by taking back their power to choose who they desire to be. We provide the space and roadmap for them to reclaim their authentic manhood and masculinity while providing resources that enable them to become whole contributors to their families and community. Yo, what's good, fam? This is your boy Robert Marshall, and we are back. Yo, this is a new season, a new episode. Yo, we're in 2021, and I am excited about all the amazing things that are about to take place this year. Yo, 2020 was rough, it was hard, and yo, the truth is, yo, that you made it. And so I'm excited. And there's with all the craziness in the world, we thought that we should create a space and create a conversation around the importance of mental health. Before we get started, I got to give a shout out to my co-host Chris. He's not with me today, but Chris, yo, we love you, man. We see you. We can't wait to have you back in your rightful space. But yo, I'm excited that we have our my bro that's going to be with us tonight. He's actually the co-author of What Every Man Needs to Know. It's now available. You can go to www.whateverymanneedstoknow.info. It is this amazing young man by the name of Stephen Donohue. He is some of everything. He is an author. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a preacher. He's a tech person. He's leading in so many different industries. He's the founder of Core for at LLC. I'm excited to have him on. He's not a guest to this show. He's fam. So everybody, yo, let's show some love for Steve. What's good, fam? How are you, man?
Man, I'm just glad that 2020 is over, but I didn't think that in 2021 we'd wait a week to destroy the government building. I didn't think we'd wait a week to be able to talk about, we're still on this black and white thing. We're still talking about mental health and financing. We're talking about COVID round 3 or 4. I was reading a meme. I hate memes, but God, do I love them. They were comparing that lockdowns and shutdowns as like Fast and Furious movies, where it's like lockdown, the lockdown. It's like, are you kidding me? Two lockdown. It's just insane how we've gotten to this point. Nothing's changed, but there's so much changing. So much
Dude,
changing.
there's so much changing in the world, man. There's so much changing in the world, bro, especially with this political stuff. What is going on with the United States right now, brother? What is
I,
going on?
well, if I had the answer to what was going on, I guess I'd be able to provide you a pragmatic solution, since that's like my favorite thing to do. But honestly, I let me put it like this. There's nothing really new. It's just different. It's just in your generation. It's your time. Political unrest has been going on for hundreds. We're a country because we got sick of politics and government. And then it didn't take long for the first like Indian War conflict. Then 1812, we tried to do like American Revolution kind of part 2, and then you kind of go a little bit further, and then you have the Civil War. Guys, this is American culture. We fight, we drink, we create government that doesn't really matter, And I'm a really big believer in the Constitution and what some of the original goals were and all that. And the goal was never to control the nation from like a federal level. It was really 13 sovereign states can do whatever they need to do. And as soon as they start to beef with each other, the government steps in to be dead. That was kind of always the design. And realistically, that's kind of how it works. But I think over time, through misinformation and through a lack of formal education on certain topics, it allows us to get information that's not from the book. As an example, for people to say your vote doesn't matter, it's like, well, no, it does. Of course, your vote matters. Now, I don't know about the system that it went into. I don't know about Orion. I don't know about voting booths and hacking. I'm not getting into the solar winds thing really like that. I don't know how far things went, but I can tell you that one of the biggest issues has always been the dissemination of information for the purpose of one or the other. And we still deal
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, man. It's crazy out here, bro. I think so many people say don't make it a black and white issue, but I think for so many people, it is a black and white issue. Especially when we look at through the years when you have Black Lives Matter movement and so many other movements that have done peaceful protests. And a lot of people are saying right now that, yo, if that was a Black Lives Matter protest, bro, it would be Red City. It would go down in history as a bloodbath, essentially.
of and yeah, man. So I feel like, somebody who works in evangelical Christian world, as well as have my foot in multiple areas. I will have to say, it's kind of crazy to see this, and to see the justification, for me behind why this is okay, and that there isn't a double standard, and it just blows my mind, man. It blows my mind.
Yeah, well, it blows your mind. Well, you know, you know about a lot of my background, Rob. You know, we've been doing this for a long time. I had hair when we met, actually.
Dude,
So,
I remember.
yeah, you want to get into it, but yeah, when I was active duty military, I've pulled guns out for a lot less than that. Sometimes there's certain parts of the world that has a little red line or a box around it and says if someone crosses it, you do something about it so they can't get out. And I thought that exact scenario warranted a lot of the same. Now, am I glad, truthfully, that there wasn't just massacre? Of course, I don't want the loss of life to happen really to anybody, truthfully. But I guess if we're comparing apples to oranges, like who would have, who wouldn't have, I can't answer that of as a definitive thing, but I can definitely say I don't think you're entirely wrong, Rob. Like
Yeah,
politically speaking, I can't say this would have happened. I can say according to the numbers, according to this, according to that, and according to public opinion, because how you feel has a lot to do with the reality that you live, right? So
that's true.
if you go outside living in fear, then you're inherently going to associate someone who looks like you doing something that you wouldn't do to get the reaction you're afraid of, right?
Dude. Yeah. So there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, man. And I wanted to invite you on because, dude, I know you're a pro and that you are an expert in mental health and in ensuring and just helping and empowering people in general. Um and it is essential. I think it would behoove us to talk about the importance of mental health, because just because craziness is going on around us does not mean that craziness has to go on inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love for you to take a moment to talk to us about what is mental health, why is this thing so important?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So there's there's words out there that have so many different definitions, and it depends on who your source is. So the World Health Organization, right? Their big thing in regards to defining mental health is your ability to cope with stress, and really at the end of this statement, it's your contribution to your community.
Mm,
I'm 86ing that. That's egregiously wrong in my opinion, because if I don't want to contribute to my community, as long as I'm not a deficit to it, I don't. So I want to eliminate that. So just for anyone who's out there going to Google the World Health Organization, you're going to see that definition on the right side of your Google page, and it will say contribution to community. I don't think that's fair. That's a personal choice. I know a lot of good people who don't donate to their local charity. That doesn't change their mental health. So I will define it for you. Mental health is the psychological well-being and ability to cope with stress and recognize your ability and or inability to perform tasks.
mm. Okay.
All
So
right.
why is this so important?
Well,
Now, because it's a buzzword too, right?
yeah.
I believe it's a buzzword, and I think that a lot of men, not just men. I can't even just leave this with men. A lot of people right now are on the struggle bus, man. They're trying to figure it out. They have chaos going on the inside. Man, how do we handle this? How?
Let's throw down some numbers. You talk about inclusion. So it's 1 in 5 in America are diagnosed with a mental health disorder. That's 20%. Now, again, you're going to see it's like 19 point something, but the general statement, it's 20% of America. Okay. Now, that 80% that isn't actually diagnosed, that doesn't mean, one, that they don't have something. Two, they doesn't mean that they're also not exaggerating their own symptoms. I don't know if you're familiar with vicarious trauma or secondary trauma as an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
That's real. I'll go back before we spring forward. If you look at like 9/11, you talk to somebody who was from New York City, and then they meet somebody who's say Chicago. There's people who saw it in Chicago on TV and imagine themselves being there and have received trauma from that vehicle. Okay, it's the same thing of what's happening in the world today, where if you're say from a very diverse neighborhood and you see somebody, well, I forgot that the young white gentleman's name who had shot he shot somebody in one of the riots. Was it Wisconsin?
Name was David Brock.
Okay, wait, it was a David Brock.
I believe so.
Okay, so you look at something like, thank you, Denise Chase. So you look at that scenario where someone from like me in Jersey, I'm from a very urban area, and it's like, wait a minute, why is this happening? There's just this one white dude out there. What's going on? Like, where were his other people? Where were other people? It's such a different world. So when you're looking at the same instance of, well, I don't see why they're acting like this there. We're comparing what we know more so than asking what we don't know. Same thing with mental health. We're always focusing on what each other are doing or what we're feeling, and no one's asking each other why. I feel sad. So, well, why do you feel sad? Would be the next question. There's this level of obedience to society that creates a mental weight that doesn't need to be there. Like, we talk about men a lot, and it's like, as a man, you must perform in bed, in the workplace, in discipline. You go down the line. We wrote a book on it, Rob. I don't want to recite the whole book, but this goes for, here it is. Plug.
Get the book.
It goes the same for women.
Get the book.
Women must steady the home. They must have these gender roles. I don't even get it. It makes me disgusted. I personally cannot stand gender roles. I'm not misogynistic really whatsoever, but there really comes a point where are women comparing themselves to other women, or men comparing themselves to other men, or can we just say mental health is a human thing? It's an emotion. It's a chemical imbalance. There's a lot going on. Why can't I speak to another woman who looks nothing like me? Well, I'm sorry, a woman who looks nothing like me, a woman who has zero of the same experiences, say on a financial scale or where we grew up scale, but we can look at each other and go, I feel your pain. There's something going on. What's going on with you? Why do you feel that way? I relate to that. It's the relation is what matters. And when we stop relating to each other, what else are we going to do but fight?
Yeah.
You take that, put that on your TV, scare the hell out of everybody. Of course, everyone's feeling something.
Yeah. I think one of the key phrases you said was mental pain. Mental pain and emotional pain. And I think it's very real, because I want to highlight that a lot of people feel like that because they can't physically see it, because it's not like they're physically bleeding, then it's not real. And they just kind of, and I know we're growing up in a black house, and a lot of some people growing up in Latino houses, it's like mental health. What? Like, you're depressed. What is that? Like, no, we don't do that. We don't get depressed. And the truth is, it's an issue. It's an illness. It's an illness. And it needs to be treated. It needs to be treated. You need to get help. And I want to strongly encourage any man, anyone out there, or any woman, any person who is dealing with mental and emotional pain, don't just try to weather it. You don't have to struggle in those spaces. You can get help. Most people don't know about me. Due to a lot of the trauma in my life, I have really bad anxiety, really bad. My anxiety can go from 0 to 100 in 2.5 seconds. Whenever I'm in a space where I don't feel like I'm in control of the environment, then my head, um, um, then my head can, go. And so I then have to kind of bring myself back in and I actually started to go I got a therapist, and I started getting help for the anxiety that was an effect of the trauma that I'd been through.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's very interesting with mental health. I had a conversation with my wife one day too. And she was honest. She said, Robert, you've never been the strongest mental health, like healthy person. I've struggled with depression. I've struggled with a lot of these things. And while preaching the gospel, while traveling, while it's, really dealt with depression, really dealt with anxiety on some very big levels. Anytime that you are thinking or considering death is easier than life, then that's an issue. That's an issue. Whenever you feel like you are losing control and that you're just kind of lost in the sauce throughout the day, that's a problem.
Mhm.
It's not normal. Whenever you feel like you're sinking within yourself, that's a problem. And uh there's a lot of people, Steve, that I personally know that I love dearly, who people would never, they're ashamed to admit that they struggle with depression or they battle with anxiety.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. I'm going to plug another person's book just because I think it just deserves the plug. It's called I Don't Want to Talk About It. It is about male depression. It's written by Terrence Real, Real. Um, a lot of my work has been based off of some of his great literature, and a lot of his literature has been based off of a woman named Pia Melody, who is one of the most trauma informed writers I've ever come across. I can plug people for days, guys. I love
Give us some of
learning.
those
And
names.
the first person I mentioned is Terrence Real. He spells it. I actually have the book over my head. Give me a moment. This is the first one.
Spell his name.
It is Terrence. Real, spelled like the word real, Real. That book, for any man who's out there, our book's great. I'm not going to argue it. Our book is great. It's a phenomenal product. It does a great service, but it doesn't get into the nuts and bolts of certain things. It's truly a great introduction for someone who's maybe a little nervous, a little ambivalent. Our book's a great way to kind of start to skate towards, I'm looking into this. That book it should take you a lot longer. Highlighters, really digging in. It talks about overt and covert depression. No one even talks about covert depression. They talk about the depression of I'm cold, I'm blue, I don't want to eat, I just want to sleep, I want to die. That's overt. That's the stuff you see. Men have a tendency to be covertly depressed.
Mm.
Workaholics, ever heard of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's covert depression right there, my man. That's covert depression. I rather work than be around people. And we believe this false narrative. I'm working towards I'm grinding, man. I'm grinding. When grinding actually is you slamming brakes on a train. That's the wrong grind, friend.
Mm.
We have to differentiate and discern between grinding towards a goal, and the goal is to stop grinding.
Mm.
You can keep that one, right? I know you go
This
ahead
is
and
why I
plug.
love you, man. It's you was like,
But it's the truth, dude. Like, you're talking about what you've been through. Like, I relate, man. I put a Burst of Thunder 380 in my mouth when I was 23.
Mm.
I was like just doing drugs. I was getting out of the military. I did not know. And on the surface, that life was great. I had a charity I was running. I was making money. I was decorated. I'm a decorated military member, honorably discharged, all this stuff, done things, just things, meant nothing. I was one moment away. And that was at 23. Take it back further. When I was like, I'd say 9, I wanted to be dead then. I was raised in a very abusive home. I was on the cusp of the abandonment and neglect. That's a whole other day. We can get into
Wow.
that type of trauma. Great conversation. My brother was very abusive, physically, mentally. You just added up all this stuff, and I came to the point where I was 9 years old. I was like, this cannot be my life. This cannot be it. Like I can't live like this.
Wow.
And then I don't know. Something kept, like you're going to do something that's bigger than this. Something bigger than this. I remember putting my glasses back on. They were broken because my brother used to love to break them. I put them on, and I'm like, I can almost see something. I could see something. And the thing that, was 9, 23. You're looking at 14 years later, almost 20 years later, I felt a level of despair that I wasn't able to stop. And then you take it out of your mouth, and you're like, there's something greater. What is it? And then the next day you go to work like nothing happened. And that's the thing. You have no idea what's happening around you. You think that everyone's good. You think everybody that disagrees with you doesn't feel pain that you've felt. And we have to go back to just asking why. It's not so much of what you believe in that's different. It's like, why do you believe in it? Just help me understand. I don't want everyone to think like I do, but I just want you to be willing to think about what I think about. That's the biggest difference. That would eliminate so much in ourselves. And sometimes being trained in mental health it's definitely a catch-22. You feel great about being able to do things, but then it's like, wait a minute, sorry, I'm regressing from my childhood. I can no longer be mad at you, my wife, because you also have your own trauma, and I have to be respectful to that. So we take a moment of introspection, and then I'll come back, and then we'll argue again because I never finished. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay, end of the day, this didn't go well. I'm sorry, and you deserve an apology. I'm walking away right there. It's like, there's no way. Like, I love when people throw what they know at me. I love when people talk about, I'm an expert in this. You're an asshole too. So I don't know if they gave you that in college, but whatever. I could cable curse here.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to say the A word and maybe one
F
word. But I'm being good. Really, I'm trying hard.
You're good, man. I got nothing but love for you, man.
I just care so much about what you're doing and the lives you impact, and it breaks my heart that people will look at what you're doing and be like, oh yeah, well, it's not like it happens to everybody. The problem is it's happening to one person, which means it's a problem. I don't care if it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No,
I don't care if it's sexual trauma. I don't care if it's a black and white conversation. I don't care if it's poverty. I don't care what it is. If some person is hurting and struggling and there's no one to ask them why they feel that way and what could be done about it, then that person is completely isolated. And at what point does your island drift so far away from the mainland that you don't even want to be there anymore?
Yeah.
That's depression, people.
Yeah. It's very real. It's very real. So, dude, why do people, and especially men, why do we ignore the signs of depression and the signs of anxiety? Why do we ignore this?
I guess you have to decide, are we talking on a level of ignorance or a level of naivety? Like, am I so naive that it can't happen to me? Yeah,
maybe both.
I think it depends on the person. Like you were saying, you mentioned growing up in a black household or a Latinx household, or I'm not going to get into what that could be like because my life sucked. So I don't know about being a white household either, but I can say that everyone has his level of influence. Like, in the book, I know I talk a lot about, like, in the beginning, higher power in chapter 3 of, like, higher power. There's the higher power. Then there's a higher power. I'm going to reference the a higher power here, where a higher power is anything that governs or influences you. So that's where our shame's coming from,
Yeah.
And when you have all this level of shame, then of course it's like, I can't feel that way. That's weakness. I can't feel that. I can't feel bad about myself. You ever heard of the Protestant work ethic?
What is
Pick
that?
yourself up from the bootstraps.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of, like, come on. If I have to hear about my generation being A, B, or C ever again, I hate to have to defend against generation, but when you look at someone go, the millennials are this, the millennials are that. I'm sorry, we invented Facebook. We invented a lot of things. We're very smart people, very capable, and very durable people. That's just for the record. I kudos my son, who's Gen Z, who's in his room studying and never saw a teacher this year. Okay.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of credit to generations. And to that point, the Protestant work ethic was the standard in American society for so long. You know, they got through the Depression. The Depression was only so bad because there wasn't social media to distract you. We had the same equivalent in numbers, but we had the internet to distract you.
Yeah.
So you look at what we can do and what we can't do from denial or mental health. It's never gone away. It's never gone away. I think that we deny it because we don't know what it is, and we don't want to say that taboo word. I'm depressed. I need help. How many men are hopeless, thankless, needless? If I can't do it, homie, it can't be done.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I think on a more practical level, admitting that you may deal with depression or that you're processing with anxiety, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man. And this is on a practical level. I think a lot of times it's like, it makes you, it people think that they're weak if they admit that these have issues. One of these reasons why I know that this is not just plaguing communities of color, it's plaguing people, period. When we look at suicide rates, when we look at just in general, that's coupled with or caused by depression and anxiety, like that, there is a problem. There's an issue, and especially amongst teenagers, amongst different generations, we see this, and people are hurting, people are dying, and they need help.
I would agree.
So,
So it's funny you said. So I talked to my son today, this afternoon about this, and I was comparing generations and insecurities and things like that. And I was like, "There's nothing you can come up with that's new. It's just the medium that which it's delivered, right?" Like Marshall McLuhan would say, "The message is the medium." And we were talking about how young men and penis sizes, which is mentioned in the book as well. He said, "We don't even worry about that." I said, I guarantee you all are worrying about it to some degree. You just might not be speaking about it. Right. So they're talking about social media, the consistency. Rob, when we grew up, man, you had a chat room maybe, and there wasn't there wasn't an epicenter of a F. Robert Marshall fan page. Didn't exist.
That's 537. That was my login.
My man, I was NY Mets fan 127, if you want to be specific. But the generations, they do have a lot more in your face. So to ignore it is harder. And I think the consistency in that weight, it's I was explaining it to a client of mine. The deeper you go into the ocean, the more water you're exposed to, the more depth, the more pressure, the less light. That's how it kind of happens. You just went for a swim. Then something happened. You caught a cramp. Something didn't go your way. You look back. You don't think you're too far, so you can keep going. Now you don't have the strength. Now you're combating there's the current, the cramp, and now your mindset. Now your fight or flight is kicking in. Something's going to happen. I guess we can turn into sink or swim. And what happens over time? Exertion.
Yeah.
Same thing, mental health. You have stamina, mental stamina. That's why you have vacations. The American society gives you generally 7 days a year to pretend like life's great. And then you come back and then you're like, I love my job again. Right. I know. With that being said, it's the same thing of like, hey, take some R&R. At least the military sends you away for a year and gives you 2 weeks afterwards to act like everything's okay. So it's designed for you, your brain, your body's smarter than you. It says, hey, I need a break. This is called a breakdown. We're having an overwhelming moment, an anxiety attack. There's trigger signs. Your body has an anti-lock braking system inside of it. That's why you go into panic attacks. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Okay. Otherwise, you would just explode, right? If you didn't have that braking system.
Yeah.
You ever seen Total Recall?
Yep.
That's just that. But you don't, because your brain, your body, your being, your soul is stronger than society. It's at what point you give the power back to society and take it away from yourself, from higher power, is when you start to sink. It's the control.
That's love, man. You're so deep. Oh my gosh, man. So how can we practically start to empower men to take their mental health seriously?
Conversation. I think people like you, people like me, that look like you and look like me, having conversations like this breaks barriers. I think until we stop looking at a promotional like video and saying is like, all right, well, they're going to argue about something. That's not the case. Having a conversation between he wears red, I wear blue, he's black, I'm white. We both grew up like complete. I almost cursed. I almost said it, but I didn't. I almost did it. But we grew up the way we grew up, all as different as we are, but yet in our manhood, we're together in unison, in union of this conversation.
Yeah.
That's the conversation. That's what's missing. How do we bring different demographics together to under one umbrella of pain? Right. I was telling someone that I was helping write one of their books, and I said, just write the book on purpose with purpose. Yeah. And he said, I don't know what you mean. I said, I don't know what I said. Say it again. Say it to me. And it made sense. Just do what you're doing on purpose with purpose. Just do it. Just live. And the way to get men to care is by admitting that we need a conversation. Have conversations on purpose. Don't slip in depression in a conversation and then like, I don't want to talk about it. Nah, let's talk about it. I want to know any person who's watching this video who's going to tell me what type of gun they put in their mouth too. Because I'm telling you, it was a Burster Thunder 380. It still sits in my home legally. And it is complete truth. I urge you to, if you don't want to put it in here publicly, you find a person you can trust and just tell them. I used to go to the bus stop and just talk to a person because I was so scared of talking to my own friends. I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to deal with it. I would go talk to people, the waitresses getting off of work. I would talk to I remember one time I paid a taxi driver just to drive me around town just so I could get it out of him. Just talk.
Dude. Wow.
I didn't have that much money. He gave me like 6 blocks. He gave me. He heard me out. He's like, "All right, as far as your complaints go, man." I'm like, "Thanks, dude." And I felt so much better just dumping it, And that's it. Just have a conversation. And you think it's weak to be the guy in your in the group that's like, "Yo, you always want to talk about something serious." It's like, yeah, dude, because getting that bag and however we're expressing ourselves. Fact of the matter is, you ain't got no bag if you got no mental health.
Right.
Tons of money with a hole at the bottom. What's the point of that?
Dude, you're right about that.
It's like, keep your dollars, you're dropping change. You still got less. Like, what are we doing? Why can't we just talk about conversations that are legitimately difficult to talk about? Yeah. And it's only difficult because you put a societal expectation on that conversation. We could talk about any topic you want, and I will not get angry with you. I'd be like, I can understand your point. That makes sense, but I don't agree.
Dude, I think mental health is a huge issue, and I think you've given us some of a roadmap to begin our journey to wholeness. I have a saying from a friend of mine. He always said that healing is the journey, wholeness is the destination. And I really want to take this space as we're kicking off this series talking about mental health. That you take it seriously, and I let me say this because I know I'm gonna get in trouble. And I've seen some of the chat, and I've seen the comments. I do know, being a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ for over 20 some odd years now, that we wrestled not against flesh and blood. I understand that there are spiritual components. I understand that there are demonic influences, that there's principality, that there's powers, that there's strongholds. I get all of that, but all at the same time, everything is not a spirit. Everything is not a demon. Everything is not going to go away with your huckamashandas and rolling on the floor and spiritual jargon, religious jargon. I'll say that, not even spiritual. I'll say religious jargon. And this is not to be disrespectful to anyone, but this is to be truthful and this is to be honest. There are real people out here who are dying, who are killing themselves, who are so lost in well, Lord Jesus, this almost brought me to tears. Who are so lost in dark places, and they are people who are filled with the Spirit of God. There are people who are serving in their communities. They're giving to the poor. They're feeding the hungry. They're helping so many people, but are struggling in silence because they are afraid. They are ashamed. They feel like they should not be dealing with whatever that they're dealing with. There are there are numbers of pastors and of our pastors, and I'm not just talking about white pastors because it's not just a white thing, but there are a number of black pastors who have preached on Sunday morning and killed themselves Sunday night. This is a very real thing. There are families without husbands. There are families without fathers because the father was struggling with depression, and suicide got the best of him. There are beautiful people who have left this world prematurely because they did not get the help that they needed because they were ashamed to, and religion did not give them the space to seek the professional help that they needed at that time. And because of that, they have suffered, and their families are suffering, and some of them are not here today. So I want to have this conversation, and I'm just setting the record straight. I want to have this conversation because there are people whose lives have been altered, because I'm talking about eternally altered because of depression, because of anxiety, because of suicide, and because unchecked mental health and mental sicknesses. There are people right now who are in abusive situations because their husbands have mental issues that they have not checked, that they have not dealt with. There are people who are having psychotic breaks, who are dealing with bipolar disorders and schizophrenia and all of this stuff. These are real, and this is just to name a few, that are struggling with these things and have not gotten help, and people around them are struggling. I'm having this conversation for the little boy and little girl whose parents are struggling, and they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to process. I'm having this conversation for the wife who is suffering at the hands of an abusive mate because he has mental issues. Or I'm doing this for the service member who has served in the military but is struggling with PTSD and can't get the help, or doesn't know where to go, or nobody wants to deal with them because they're too violent and because they're too just out of the box. This is some real stuff here, y'all. It's not just religious church jargon that we're talking about demons and Huckam and Shonda. No, there are traumatic experiences that people have gone through that have left an imprint on their mind, their heart, their emotions, and they don't know how to process and deal. And my hope is that we can provide a conversation and a dialogue where people can feel safe enough to put their guard down, lay down their burdens, and start to get the help that they need. Sorry.
Listen, you just sparked like 17 more potential conversations. I would say look into imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a big deal, especially for men, where what happens quite often of someone who's a person of power, or a person who's a person of influence, they are, hypocritical. They might say, don't do this, don't do that, but yet they do it, and they live this like imposter syndrome. They don't fit into the mold at which they're portraying. That happens. That lays a lot of work. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. It lays a lot of weight onto a person. And then you talked about the aspect of all these multitude of mental health disorders, real diagnoses. We haven't even touched co-occurring substance use disorder. We could run an entire series just on different topics. I can go on for days about this, and it always comes down to, are you willing to figure out what you're feeling, figure out what you're feeling, go through the process of why you feel it, and then uproot it.
Dude, there's people right now who are strung out on opioids, who are strung out on amphetamines and barbiturate drugs, who are alcoholics because who are dealing with drug addictions that and drug addictions, addictions, and whatever type of addiction that exists out there, because there's a mental something going on and they don't know where to get help. So they try, and especially men try to self-medicate instead of seeking professional help.
Keep this in mind, for the men out there. We complete suicide over 90% of the time. When a man says, I'm doing it, it gets done. The sheer fact that I'm alive is like, I'm in such a slim margin. Like, I was one sneeze away. Over 90% of men complete that mission when it comes to mind. It is an astronomically high number, and they use lethal modalities, guns, hanging. Very rare does a man overdose in comparison to a woman who was taking a bunch of pain pills. When a man generally overdoses, he'll use a very high volume amount of heroin, hypothetically, where a woman might take a lot of sleeping pills and end up dead. So there's are differences. I'm not saying that all women who attempt suicide don't want to die, but what I'm saying that statistically speaking, men complete that mission at a higher rate, a much higher rate.
Yeah.
So it's something to keep in mind, that if you feel there's a person in your life who's a male, and since for the sake of the conversation, who is a male, and you have something comes to you, something's nudging you, I beg you, please go after that conversation. The worst thing you can do is say nothing. The best thing you can do is just say anything. Say anything. Anything. Saying nothing is the worst thing you can do. And asking, do you feel like you're going to complete suicide, is a hard question, but it's the fastest to your destination. Do you feel that you're going to harm yourself? Do you feel that you're going to kill yourself? No, I don't know why you would ask me that. Because something's telling me to ask you, and I love you, and I don't want anything to happen to you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to encourage them to do it by asking. That's a big fallacy. Let's just get rid of it.
Yeah. I think another practical thing that we can do to help people, this is what I've learned, by really asking people, how are they? And what I mean by that, not just a general, hey, how are you? I have gotten into practice when I see people. I ask, how are they? And I sit and wait for them to respond. And then I sit, and when they say that again, when they say how they're feeling, oh, I'm great, I'm good, I look at them again, acknowledge their humanity, and ask them, like, no, how are you for real? And normally by that second or third, how are you? You get the truth.
Rob, I'll ask you this. Well, I'll challenge you. Stop accepting the word good as a response. Stop, because it's not a feeling. It's just a cop out. How do you feel? I feel good. What does that mean? What's that mean? I don't know what that means. Do you feel strong? Do you feel confident? Do you feel attractive? What do you feel? And feeling never starts with, I think ... I think I feel. No, that's a thought. How do you feel? I feel. Feelings are statements. If it's a question, it's a thought, right? Yeah. If you're going to be working with people and you want to ask some good questions, stop accepting words that are complete cop-outs. And a lot of times you feel good because you asked the question. You're like, oh, I feel good. At least I asked. No, I'm good enough to walk off. That's imposter syndrome, guy. Back off. If you're not going to ask someone with purpose, doing something purposely on purpose, don't do it. How are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Good at what? baseball. What are you talking about? How are you feeling? I also have a very abrasive approach to my work. I know that. I don't work with a lot of people that don't like it.
Yeah, you're even like that with me at times. When we're
Because
talking,
I hold you accountable.
we're like, "Yo, hey, how you doing?" I'm good. I'm straight. No, Rob, how you doing, man? I'm I said I'm good. Rob, how are you, man? How are you feeling? And then I'm normally say, "Oh, here grinding," and then you're like, and then it goes. I think men, and we talk about this often, that oftentimes men are emotionally underdeveloped because they were never given permission to fully express how they feel, and socially it's been unacceptable for a man to say, "Hey, I'm not okay,"
Well, what
because
if your frontal lobe was mashed potatoes until you were 25, and by 25 you're supposed to be able to have fought in a war, have a career, start a family, and you're just stopped. You just stopped the development. Like you finally, and by that time, with all the life you live. So think about that, Rob. Only what, you're 30?
30.
30. Me too. Beautiful age. We look great, don't we, guys? So we 5 years have we stopped growing. Like, it's like you finally stopped. There's a reason why women are more advanced than men in certain stages of life. It's not a secret. This isn't a sexist conversation. It's just science, people. Women stop. Thank you. Your frontal lobe as a man is mashed. I'll be like sweet potatoes, a little healthier. So sweet potatoes, some yams.
Yeah.
Until you're 25, candy yams, no doubt. I love them. Until you're 25, and you're expected to be a man by 25. Dude, I just started. I don't know what I'm doing. And keep that into your mind. So, I know, Rob, you have so many mentees. You impact so many lives. Ask the question to them, like, at what point do you become a man?
Yeah.
Science would tell you science says 25. Society says 18. What's your answer? You know what I'm saying? That's a harder question.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We can have these conversations all day. The truth is, bro, you don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to get help. Don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to acknowledge where you are. And I think it takes a real man to do that. It takes a real man and a strong man, a brave man, a courageous man to admit when he needs help.
I agree.
And this is why men need this is why you need friends. This is why you need brothers. I have a group of friends that I've had for over 12, 13, almost 12, 13 years now. And man, we all are who we are in our respective areas and have become quite successful, some of us, in what we do. But when we get in a room or in a space, it's okay, how are you? I know you just made, $100,000, but how's your soul, bro? Like, how are you doing? What's going on with you? And if you're one of those guys that's saying, I can't afford to go see a therapist, get you some good friends.
Call me. I would tell I would tell that to anybody. I hate to just, like, I'm not here to plug myself professionally,
Oh,
but I'm here
plug
to,
it, man.
nah,
Plug it.
dude, it's not my style, to be honest. But I would
It's all
say
right. That's my
that
style. I'll plug you.
I would say this: if you are at a point where you
What's your website?
www.consultcore4.com. If you are at a point where you just have no money and you have no idea what you're doing, reach out to me. Facebook Messenger. I don't care. Write me a letter. Pigeon send it. I don't care. As long as you got problems, I promise you there's solutions in that. And I send this one with you all. And this is for your relationships. The riddle is always in the middle. That's my next book. Be ready. It's coming. I can't wait to write it, and I will be getting excerpts from other people like Rob. But the riddle is always in the middle. It's with yourself. It's with your businesses. It's with your relationships at home. I don't care what it is. When you're looking at yourself, What's the middle? Is it what you're willing to give and what you're willing to keep? The bridge is the middle. That's your threshold as a person, as a human being. You know that middle. That's what keeps your marriage going. That's what keeps your business going. That's what keeps your soul progressing. I can't have this right now. I'm not willing to give this up. Find the middle. I will be there in the middle waiting for you as long as you meet me halfway. I'll talk to it. And if we can get a good group going, I'll do a group session. Don't bother me. None any different. Bring it on, Rob. You know that. I would pro bono whatever it comes down to help your platform and help your mentees and the impact that you make. So you just set it up.
Man, no problem. I really appreciate you. I had to turn this way so I could see you. But dude, I think this is such an important dialogue and a conversation that we need to have. And also to couple this, I believe that there are different ways to approach this. There's different ways to there's more than one way to skin a cat. That's what they would say in the country. There's more than one way to do this. So brothers, if you're listening, if you're out there, hey, this is an active resource. I'm giving you the gift of Steve Donohue at consultcore4.com. Go visit out his website. He's an amazing brother. Steven is the co-author of What Every Man Needs to Know. I need you guys to go grab this book. He wrote a chapter on love. Oh man, let me not.
He's diving in. He's
I'm
diving in.
diving in. I got to do it.
He's diving. I love it.
He wrote the chapter on you are worthy of love. You are worthy of love.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, brother. Chapter 3. You are worthy of love. And you know what? To be honest, when we approached Steve about writing this chapter, I did not expect that it was going to be as thorough and deep as it is. But
you had me scale it back.
This dude,
scale it back. Oh my goodness! I had COVID when you brought that to me. I was COVID. I was positive COVID, 103 fever. I woke up to a message. You want to write a book? Yeah, I do. I do. I got to get off my butt and I got to get moving.
Oh man.
My wife was like, "You got COVID. What, you got to write a book?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I need to do this. This is what I want to do." And Rob's asking, and he wouldn't have asked if he didn't want my help. And I got 103 fever. I'll write tomorrow. But it worked, man. That was such a proud moment. Put it out there. Very honored.
Man, and thank you for editing. I actually got ripped off in this book with the editing. And Steve looked at this book and said, "Rob, just send me the whole book." And Steve went through the whole book in like a day, 2 days. And he edited the book as well. So Steve is a man of many talents, and I definitely appreciate him, and I value him, and I love him. So Steve, he talks about what love actually is to a man, and I think that was when a man says "I love you" or he wants love. What does that mean? And he talked about respect. He talked about forgiveness. He talked about compassion, humility. He talked about, and I'm just skimming through his chapter, guys. You guys have, and I'm not doing it much justice, but you have to grab this book, What Every Man Needs to Know. Go grab this book. And matter of fact, what I will do, because I have some versions here, if you are listening today and you want this book, I will send this book to you free of charge. Yeah. I'll send it to you free of charge today. I'll put it on me because I want to bless you guys, because Steve, let me say this publicly while we have people listening. Steve, you are a gift. You are a gift, and I want you to know that the grace that's on your life is needed. And I really believe that this is going to be a season and a time where all of your gifts and all that you went through, all that you've walked through, everything that you've had to endure is going to make sense. And I really believe that the culmination of it's going to come together, and you are going to be somebody that helps people heal by the droves, so that they can overcome their challenges and become the best versions of themselves. I believe that this is going to be the spiritual component of you, the mental component of you, the advocate side of you, the warrior in you. All of that is going. It's not going to be separate people. It's not going to be compartmentalized. But I really believe all of that's going to come together in a culmination of something, and it's going to come together soon. And something beautiful is going to be made, and you're going to help people who don't know where to go, who have different that it's like placements all over the place, and you're going to help bring them together into wholeness, into oneness. And I think that's what's been going on with you with the last couple of years, is that now all of, you are a warrior, you are a father, you're a husband, you're a minister, you're this, and it's almost like you've been compartmentalized in all these places. But I really believe that all of it's about to come together, and it's about to make sense. It's
I
about to make
appreciate that. Thank you. And before COVID, we had plans. We had tours getting ready. We had plans. Like we're still game on.
Dude, it's still game on. We just had time to do other things now.
Yeah,
So
that's it. The platform has been set. It's I'm all for it. And for anyone who's listening, anyone who's going to catch the replay, or people, even if you clicked on it, scrolled, whatever the case, end of the day, we don't do this for us as much as sometimes we do it for other people. But I would be very, very important to tell you the truth. When me and Rob do this, because it is cathartic for us, this is healthy for us. It's not just like we want to give it away. All right. No, we want to give it away because we give something back to ourselves too. Let's just keep that real right now. I'll keep it a buck with everybody. This is healthy for us.
Yeah.
We need this. It energizes us. It's that affirmation that we're on the right path, and this is the path that's lit. And the torch that which we walk has been lit by the souls of the people who gave it to us. We didn't do it all by ourselves. None of us here were born on third base. Man, I'm bunting. I'm stealing base. I'm trying my dang best, man. William and Kalata, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Curry.
Yeah. Dude, this is amazing. I'm excited because we have a whole month of these conversations planned out with people like my brother over here, Steven. We have different therapists, different doctors who are going to be on talking about mental health, the issues of mental health. Hopefully, I'll have my co-host back. I miss Chris Boulder. Yo, we got to get Chris a laptop or something because his car got broken into, and he doesn't have a laptop, and he got all of his stuff is gone. So, dude, I got to introduce you to Chris. Chris is dope. Just
Chris, bring it.
Yeah,
bring it.
Dope. So we definitely I got plans. I got an idea. I got a really big idea.
Oh man, last time this happened, dude.
I know, man. I know.
love it. I love it. I'm not busy enough. I would show you my whiteboard, but it could probably get me in more trouble.
Dude, I'm telling you. Listen, I appreciate you, Steven. Shout out once again to Chris Boulder. He's not here with us tonight, but Chris, I'm sure you'll be back real soon. Man, I appreciate you, Steve. You're amazing. You're a gift. You guys, if you want more information about how to get in touch with Steve, go to consult4.com. Reach out to him. He's amazing. He's a huge resource. I appreciate for having you on the show, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Also, guys, I want to give you a shout out. My new children's book is available. It's not available at Consult 4, but you can get it definitely on Facebook. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it Barnes and Noble. You can also get it in Walmart. So go grab this book. It's available in English and in Spanish. If you're looking for more information, visit littlebrownboys.com. littlebrownboys.com. I'm excited, guys. Also, big news. I had an exclusive interview with CBS, NBC, and Fox News. So, guys, you can go catch that interview. You can go read read up on what happened with that. It's big things happen, big things happening even during this pandemic. I'm excited about the future. If you haven't, go get Chris Boulder's book. Um, Chris Boulder, he's an amazing guy. It's called Broken. It's actually become one of my favorite reads. Chris talks about his life and his journey, and the time that he served in while he was incarcerated, and the process that he has had to go through with rebuilding his life back brick by brick. All right. Well, guys, listen here. You guys are amazing, and you all have an amazing day. I'm afraid I'm gonna play this little brown boy video, and